Because when you know you have good things to say and you don't say them, what happens is that it animates your gestures. It animates your voice. It gives you a sense of authority. It gives you a sense of confidence because you know you have something good to offer, but you're keeping it to yourself. And people can sense when you have interesting things to say. People can sense when there's more to you than meets the eye. And the way you create that aura is through. If you're a man, you need to watch this video because most of the mistakes that guys do when it comes to talking to women is that we talk too much. We talk too much. We don't let the woman talk. Usually we're the ones that are more interested in the woman. So this video is so important for us men because when I was younger, my biggest mistake was talking too much. If I just talked less, my dating life would have been so much better. All right. So silence is one of those things that makes people uncomfortable. It makes them want to find out and it makes them want to fill the gaps. Whenever you're someone who learns to keep things to themselves, who don't say more than who say less than necessary, you draw people to you because you become a mystery. So today we're going to be talking about 3 powerful reasons why silence is such a powerful tool and why you should apply silence in your life, in your professional, dating, and personal life. Because too many of us talk too much. Too many of us overshare. Humans naturally want to be seen. Humans naturally want to be acknowledged. A baby who's not seen in the eye, who's not observed, will naturally die. Humans who are not interacted, who are not looked at, naturally have lower self-esteem. And as a result, humans do everything in their powers to get attention. And usually one of the things that they do is talk a lot. They reveal too much. They remove any mystery, any shred of power that could have been given to them. All because they always talk too much. People who talk too much make too many mistakes. People who don't talk a lot make fewer mistakes. And usually those people talk a lot because they just feel insecure. Usually when you talk a lot and you are on a date or you're talking to people, it's because you feel nervous, right? You're trying to impress them, or maybe when you talk to them, they may not be giving you the facial feedback that you want, and so it makes you nervous. It's like when I talk to a girl and I go up to her and she's looking at me confused, it causes me to talk a lot more. Versus when I talk to her and she responds with a smile, I usually talk less because I feel more secure. So it's usually a power game. When you talk to people, a lot of the times, one of the things that some people really do is that they give you like a quizzical look, like, what are you talking about? Or like, I don't know what you mean, or I disagree with you. And you'll notice in people that they end up talking more, talking faster, and they raise their voice because they're feeling insecure. They don't know what your face means. And so they'll start saying things to qualify themselves to you. So when you're in a state where you're talking a lot, really it's because you feel like you're in a position of weakness. You feel more inferior to them. And so most people backward rationalize that people who talk a lot are inferior to them. It's a backward rationalization. It's not true, but that's what we do. Actually, a lot of the times when people talk a lot, it's because we're making them nervous, right? And when you make other people feel nervous, it means it's almost like a hierarchy. What you guys are really saying is that I'm above you. So one of the ways to reverse that dynamic is to just shut up sometimes. Just being quiet gives you power. By the way, if you want to learn more about this, about how to use silence to create a positive first impression, to project power, to gain respect, this is a topic that I actually talk about in my course, my new course, Charisma Blueprint. It's a course, like I said, I created this course specifically for people who feel like they're introverts and they want to learn how to project charisma. And in this course, I teach you how to project charisma in 2 different ways, right? One, I teach you how to project it through an outer form of charisma. A charisma which is similar to what we have on YouTube, or a charisma where you have distance between yourself and the subject, like a teacher, and also distance also means physical and also means through time. Now, the next part of the course is inner charisma. This type of charisma is a charisma where it's face to face, where you can't hide beneath the crowd or you can't hide behind the screen. And this type of charisma, the type of charisma that most people don't know how to have. So I teach you how to gain both types of charisma. It's like a jab and a hook, right? It's like a 1-2 punch. You can purchase it now by clicking on the description down below. And if you don't like it, you can get a refund in 30 days. Just click on the description down below. And anybody who's ever purchased my courses know that all of my courses, all of them are good. I mean, that's just the truth. And if I don't like it, I put down courses. I've had seminars that people pay to go, and when I saw the content that I was putting out, I decided to cancel the whole seminar and gave thousands of dollars back in refunds. Why? Because my number one thing is content integrity. To know that what I'm giving you 100% works. So just take my word for it. Click on the description down below and let's continue with the. So just ask them open-ended questions and lean back. So tell me, tell me, what's your favorite memory when you were a child? Like, for example, right? And lean back and just nod. Just keep nodding. And if there's a pause, let it rest, and you'll notice that that person will fill in the pause with more talking, right? Don't do this all the time, but just do it as an experiment so that you can see how much you could really get people to talk. It's much better to be on the side of not talking that much more than being on the side than talking a lot, because talking a lot has killed a lot of people. Talking a lot has sabotaged a lot of people. So let's talk about why you want to maintain an air of silence so that people could be drawn to you, and how you could use it in your personal, dating, and professional life. First things first, by you not saying much and being silent, you give an aura of power and authority. Humans love interpreting things, and when faced with ambiguity, they will try to fill in the gaps, right? King Edward, a lot of kings do that, right? Rather than talking with a response, kings would just give a look as a response, right? So we got to learn how to speak with our faces and gesture. Find in normal life situations moments when you can communicate with your face and with your nonverbal cues. For example, if somebody asks me, "Hey Alexis, do you want this?" Rather than saying, "Yeah, I want it," I'll be like, "Yeah," right? You learn to communicate more with gestures and with fewer words. Find little moments in your social life, in your daily life, when you could just speak with your face and not say a word. Because you got to understand, the most impactful way of communicating is non-verbally. When you're able to communicate non-verbally, you cause people to react viscerally. People will react viscerally whenever you communicate non-verbally. You say more by saying less. You say more by talking with your eyes than with your words. And the reason why is because by speaking non-verbally, learning to communicate with gestures, there's an aura of mystery behind this signal that you're sending out. Words are too direct and too obvious and too easily to interpret unless you double speak. But speaking non-verbally, it causes people to interpret. If I tell you I like you versus me giving you a look like, right? You might know what I mean, right? But also, in that moment of like, you're like, for that moment, you're paying a little bit more attention. Your brain is processing what I'm doing and trying to find out what does it mean. That extra second of evaluation, that extra second of like interpretation gives you an aura, like an aura of mystery. It's like looking at something you don't understand, right? You're giving yourself that aura of power, and that's what powerful people do. We don't notice, but a lot of powerful people talk. Trust me, there's so many moments that we're missing out, and the reason why you want to do that is because it gives you an air of authority. Only powerful people are comfortable and used to speaking without words. Only powerful people, right? So for example, like the Godfather, sometimes when he calls people over, he doesn't just say, hey, you come over here, I need to talk to you. He'll be like, hey, Tony. He goes like that, right? He speaks without words. Or when somebody speaks to the Godfather, he doesn't just respond quickly. He takes a while, looks at another direction, and then responds. He'll be like, Godfather, can you help me? And the Godfather will be like, it's a shame that you came to me now today when my daughter's getting married. You never came to me, never asked for a cup of coffee. But now you come to me during my daughter's wedding when I can't say no to you. What did I ever do to you? How did I ever insult you for you to treat me in this way? You know, and they'd be like, Godfather, please be my friend. And then Godfather's like, okay, I'll be your friend. But one day I'll need your help. So that type of talking, the way that he talks, in gestures, in pauses, gives the Godfather an air of power and authority. And that was one of his secrets, right? Is that when people talk to him, he waited a little longer to respond, and he spoke with gestures as much as he possibly could. And by doing that, you just project power, right? Because the opposite of somebody who talks a lot, who doesn't think before they speak, is just a dumbass, to be honest with you. Somebody who people just don't respect. Somebody that when you walk away from other people just laugh at you and they can't respect you. And too many people have that aura, right? So these are some of the stoic laws of being silent. In fact, let me tell you what Robert Greene said about this, because Robert Greene has a chapter in the 48 Laws of Power called Always Say Less Than Necessary. Robert Greene.
When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish.
The next one is that you get people to talk more. By you saying less, it causes people to reveal more. For example, this is one of the strategies. You ask people a question. So what do you do for work? Right? And people will respond. I am an engineer, right? And then if you respond as soon as they say they're an engineer, then they'll stop talking. And then you'll start talking out. What you could do is ask people, so what do you do? And they'll be like, so what do you do for work? I'm an engineer. And you just keep looking, keep looking, and keep nodding your head. And they'll keep talking, actually. They're like, I'm an engineer. And they're like, oh, fuck, I gotta keep talking. And I play and I do engineering stuff. And I hack the computers. And I, do this and do that. And you're like, by you just nodding as people talk, and you just keep your head like that, you encourage people to talk while you remain silent, because you're giving them feedback. You're saying, yeah, keep talking. I like what you're saying. I'm interested into what you're saying. And the reason why you do that is because it gets people to talk more. It gets people to reveal more about themselves. And by you simply doing that, you allow yourself not to talk that much while they reveal more. This also relates to texting, right? Saying less than necessary. It's also taking a little longer to respond. This is what a lot of people do when they don't like people, and they notice that when they don't like people, they end up liking them back. But a lot of the reasons why is because when you don't like them, you don't say that much. You keep your words to yourself. You say less in text. You say more cryptic things. You take longer to respond. All of that is a form of silence, and all of that creates a sense of anxiety in people. And when you make a partner anxious, which I don't recommend, it causes them to chase you in order to get certainty. So that's another form of saying less, right? Because it'll give you power. In business, saying less is always the best. In life, saying less is another thing that you could do is allow awkward silences in a conversation. Like, just allow the awkward silence and allow them to break the awkward silence. By you doing that, you get them to talk more. You get them to reveal more about themselves while you stand back and listen. This is the thing. By you getting them to talk more, because people love to talk, and you not talking too much, what they're doing is that they're unconsciously making a connection with you. When somebody allows us to talk, when somebody allows us to express the things that are in our hearts, we inadvertently start liking them. And we start liking them not because of something they said, but because of their presence. And what happens is that when you leave the conversation with this person, you're going to end up saying, I like this person, but I don't know much about them. In other words, I like you, but you're a mystery. You are an interesting mystery. And by you letting them talk, they're going to say to themselves, rather than, because there are two types of people. Charismatic people are the types of people that when you talk to them, they feel like the most interesting person in the world. And then there's charming people. And the charming people, when you talk to them, you feel like the most interesting person in the world. And the only way for you to create that effect is to let people talk. Let people talk and listen, and lean forward and listen. and ask questions. Let them be the center of attention. Let the light shine on them and give them the spotlight. What happens is that you think that they're being superior to you because they're talking more. They're the ones with the that's keeping up and saying more. But what's really happening is that they're starting to like you because you're giving them the spotlight, but they don't know much about you, right? So you just get them to talk more to reveal themselves, more to reveal things about themselves. And also you get to remain a mystery all while being liked. That's why the next one is that by you not talking much, you make fewer mistakes. You make fewer mistakes. So many people have gotten their heads chopped off because it just cannot shut the hell up. So many people. And the Stoics understood this. If you keep your mouth shut, you learn to not make mistakes. And for example, I always tell guys, like when I give dating advice to guys, I tell them this, man. If you're noticing that the women are not calling you back, you must be saying something that really is offending them. So one of the strategies that I tell people is that when you're talking to women and you're getting to know them, learn to speak less than necessary. And on the date, just find a way to not reveal enough about yourself, but not so little where you create suspicion, but not so much, right? So what guys will notice is that when they don't talk a lot, when they learn to keep their words at a minimum, it's not that you're a goddamn mute. It's not that you are a mute, but that if you talk 80% of the time, now you're going to be speaking 60% of the time, right? And slowly try to speak less. The more somebody likes you, the more willing they are to fill in the gaps. And by them talking more and by you speaking less, you're going to notice that, oh my God, most likely I was offending people. Because when you talk a lot, there is something about word vomit that offends people. There is something about a person who cannot control what they say that pushes people away. And in my experience, in my life, I've noticed I've said the dumbest things when I'm in the momentum of talking a lot. Just learn to speak less than necessary. Learn to keep things to yourself. Learn to be the quiet one in the group. There is no weakness in being the quietest one. Because you want to know why? Because when you're the quietest one and you have proper body language and voice projection, whenever you speak, everyone pauses and listens to you. What does that say? What that says is that they respect your opinion simply because they don't hear from you as much. Telling them that you like them with your words, show them that you like them with your actions. The most powerful people always communicate with actions, not words. When a king is sentencing you to death, he doesn't say off with his head. What he does is looks at a guard and goes like, or like the emperors, when the gladiators fought, he will sentence them to death by going like this, or sentence them to live by going like this. The point is that kings and queens and people of authority understand the power of saying less. Even parents understand that it's one thing to tell your kids to shut the hell up. It's another thing to give your kids the look. It's visceral. It's more primal. You could even say that our reptilian brain reacts to nonverbal cues a lot more than our prefrontal cortex, our rational brain, because our rational brain is listening to what you're saying and interpreting, right? Normal interpretation, 1 + 1 = 2, right? Computing. But when you are observing people's reactions, it's an abstract thing. So you're observing. Your reptilian brain is observing the facial cues and it's reacting to it. The reactions are more visceral and deeper. And so when people observe you, you could create a layer of mystery, a layer of power, because the reptilian brain is observing you, not your rational brain. That it's almost like when people look at people who they're in love with, they're looking at them with their emotional brain, and there's a certain irrational pleasure from that. So you could create that effect of giving people an irrational type of like energy in the good way, not in a negative way, by just learning and practicing. That's the power of speaking less. Let me give you guys an example of this concept of how people will follow you more, people will listen to you more, people will give you more of their attention if you do things that make no sense. And I'm not saying to do crazy things. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that this will illustrate to you the power of nonverbal cues, because nonverbal cues require interpretation. That's why people like riddles and puzzles, because they require work. So if in your communication you speak in a sphinx-like manner, which is good, but also you give people mystery through speaking through your nonverbals, a similar thing will happen to the story you're going to listen to. This is part of my Robert Greene book club. And if you guys want to join the Robert Greene book club, where I interpret texts like this, then click on the description down below where it says join the Robert Greene book club. Well,
Barnum's first big venture of his own was for the American Museum, a collection of curiosities located. He gave the man 5 bricks and told him to make a slow circuit of several blocks. At certain points, he was to lay down a brick on the sidewalk, always keeping 1 brick in hand. On the return journey, he was to replace each brick on the street with the one he held.
None of this makes sense. And the reason why it's meant to not make sense, because by not making sense, or by being difficult to interpret, which nonverbal cues usually are more difficult to interpret than words, it focuses people to laser focus their attention on this irrational.
Meanwhile, he was to remain serious of countenance and to answer no questions.
Mystery.
Once back at the museum, he was to enter, walk around inside, then leave through the back door and make the same bricklaying circuit again. On the man's first walk through the streets, several hundred people watched his mysterious movements. By his 4th circuit, onlookers swarmed around him, debating what he was doing. Every time
People want a mystery.
he entered the museum, he was followed by people who bought tickets to keep watching him. Many of them were distracted by the museum's collections and stayed inside. By the end of the first day, the brick man had drawn over 1,000 people into the museum. A few days later, the police ordered him to cease and desist from his walks. The crowds were blocking traffic. The bricklaying stopped, but thousands of New Yorkers had entered the museum, and many of those had become P.T. Barnum converts.
And we're going to keep listening, but that just shows you how if what the homeless guy was doing made sense, people would not be interested. So that's why I'm not saying that nonverbal cues don't make sense. I'm saying that nonverbal cues take an extra second of interpretation. If you listening to me takes up 1 calorie, you observing a nonverbal cue and having that second to interpret it, it could burn like 10 calories, for example. But the point is that we all understand that observing behavior and looking at people's behavior takes a lot more effort than just listening to what they're saying. I mean, it's such a powerful thing that even what's the number 1 advice that lawyers give their client? Shut up when you're being questioned. Lawyers are the ultimate manipulators. They understand the game, and they give the advice to just keep your mouth shut. Keeping your mouth shut will give you liberty, but opening your mouth will give you death. They understand the power behind that. And if I was a lawyer of life and somebody asked me what's my advice to you, I would say keep your mouth shut. Learn to be the quiet one in the room. When you go to a new situation, a new culture, shut up. Just observe people. Observe people the way they're behaving. Observe who are the successful ones and why they're successful. Also observe who are the ones that are getting fired and why and what rules they're breaking. Also observe what are the unwritten rules in a culture. The only way for you to understand a new situation, a new job, a new person is not to talk. It's to shut up and observe. Get people to talk. Get people to express themselves. And whereas somebody who speaks a lot usually offends people. Somebody who speaks a lot usually annoys people. And that person makes so many mistakes that people are tired of hearing from them. There are 3 types of people who you're going to meet in life. People who want to hear and see more of you. People who are indifferent about your faith, where they don't care about seeing more and they don't care about seeing less of you. But then there are people who want to see less and hear less of you. The way for you, the best balance is to say less than necessary. And you might think to yourself, but Lexus, I have a lot of interesting things to say. Don't worry about it. Keep it to yourself. Because when you know you have good things to say and you don't say them, What happens is that it animates your gestures. It animates your voice. It gives you a sense of authority. It gives you a sense of confidence because you know you have something good to offer, but you're keeping it to yourself. And people can sense when you have interesting things to say. People can sense when there's more to you than meets the eye. And the way you create that aura is through keeping silence. You allow those positive emotions to stay suppressed in you. Like somebody who's suppressing anger. You could kind of see the anger in their face. When you're suppressing interesting things that you know that you have in your mind, good points of views, where you know you're interesting, your face is gonna be animated by this subtle gesture. And you're gonna give that vibe off. That is something that you cannot fake. You cannot fake this. You can't fake this inner confidence. This inner confidence only comes from you knowing that you're keeping good things to yourself. And it doesn't mean, look, what I'm trying, I hope I'm not preaching to you guys not to be interested. That's not what I'm preaching to you guys. I'm telling you guys, experiment with this. Give it a try. Say less than necessary. You'll notice that people will assume and see you as somebody who has power and authority. A perfect example of that, I worked at a job and there were two people, Georgina and Shalia, right? Georgina was my supervisor and Shalia was the director. For 4 months, I thought that Georgina was the boss. And the reason why Georgina gave that impression is because Georgina didn't say much. Georgina didn't smile that much. Georgina was a serious woman. Georgina intimidated you. Shalia was the spiritual, hey guys, let's love each other. How are you feeling today? Alexis, how are you? How's your energy? That fucking bullshit, right? But Georgina rarely smiled, but I remember when she smiled, everyone smiled. When she talked, everyone talked, right? She didn't speak with a happy tone. She was a serious woman, but if you made her smile, she'll smile. But she wasn't trying to smile the whole time. Everyone respected Georgina. To this day, this woman gave a woman of authority with love. You could tell that she had love, but the impression that she gave us was that she was serious, but deep down she was a really nice woman. Shalia gave us the impression that she was a very nice person on the outside, but weak on the inside. That's the inner impression. And one of the reasons why she gave that impression was because Georgina was kept her words to herself and had a serious face. But she smiled from time to time. It wasn't that she didn't smile. She smiled from time to time. And whenever somebody made her smile, you wanted to be that person who made her smile. Keep things to yourself. Always say less than necessary. And you'll notice you'll be able to project a power that most people wish they would. It's not hard. All you got to do is control your mouth. And the respect that you get from people is actually earned. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe. And don't forget, I have a course called Charisma Blueprint. It's a course that I made for people who want to learn how to project charisma. Anybody who applies this course will be able to project power, will be able to project authority, and the only thing you have to do is watch that course and do exactly what that course says. Click on the description down below to purchase it, and I'll see you guys inside.